So thank you everyone for joining us today. So today I'll be presenting a session on Code Connect, which is going to be related to modern JavaScript and Lightning Web Component. In this session, I'll tell you how you can utilize the capabilities of modern JavaScript with your Lightning Web Components. So the session name is Bridging LWC and Modern JavaScript. And before moving ahead, thanks to our sponsors. Because of them, we are able to have this event. So a quick thanks to them. I'll quickly start with my introduction. So I'm Kapil Batra. I'm a Salesforce MVP and I'm a Salesforce certified application architect as well. I'm from Ajmer, Rajasthan, and currently I'm working as a specialist senior in Salesforce domain. So basically, my job most of the times it contains solution design and building the customization. That's why I'm totally into this Lightning Web Component development, JavaScript, and all those customized stuff only. The agenda is pretty simple today for this session. So first we'll learn what is modern JavaScript. You must have heard about the usual JavaScript what we are having, but in this session, you will be having a quick introduction to the modern JavaScript, like what is the modern JavaScript, how it is different than the normal JavaScript, and why you should use it. In this agenda, I'll tell you a couple of examples of modern JavaScript. So there will be three examples with three uh, live examples basically, where I'll be sharing my screen and I'll show you how these functionalities are working. So in this session, we'll be covering template literals. That is going to be the first thing what we'll be covering. This is one of the very important thing in modern JavaScript, one of the very important functionality. We'll be having destructuring assignment syntax, another good to have functionality in modern JavaScript, which you might be already using in normal JavaScript, but maybe you are not aware of it that you're using it. And third thing will be functions and better parameter handling. So in functions and better parameter handling, we will learn basically how you were using functions in your normal JavaScript and how it is different. What are the different ways to use it in the modern JavaScript and why you should use it. Okay. So I'll quickly move with my first slide, which is modern JavaScript. So basically, modern JavaScript is the JavaScript after the ES6 version release. So ES6 is basically ECMAScript 6 version release, which includes things like module and classes in it. In the same JavaScript, it is the same JavaScript, but with some new features, as I told you guys. So as part of new features, we are having modules now, we are having classes now, and the only thing is whenever you are using JavaScript, you need to make sure you are using best of it. Just as an example, I'm having one image here. You must have heard of that thirsty crow story, where the crow will be throwing stones in the jar so that water could come up and he can have it. But on the right side, if you will see, it is the modern JavaScript part where the same crow is using the straw. Using the same way, we will be leveraging the modern JavaScript functionality, and we will be leveraging its new functions, using which you will be able to uh, perform better, build better, and make the best use of it. So we will quickly start with the introduction of JavaScript, like when it was introduced first. I'll quickly move to the next slide. So JavaScript was introduced in 1996. 1996 was first year when the JavaScript was introduced with some basic functionality. It was very, very basic at that time. Then in 1997, ES1 version was published. And after that, it was having continuous versions. Like if you will notice in this image, in 1998, we are having ECMAScript 2, which got published. In 1999, we had ECMAScript 3. And then after 10 years, in 2009, we had ECMAScript 5. So from 1996 to 2009, whatever functionalities we had, we are still using it in current year, we are still using it, right? And these functionalities basically are like old school JavaScript, or we can say old JavaScript, standard JavaScript, the usual JavaScript what you're using. Now, if you have noticed this image, so there's something fishy about it. If you will notice, so in 1999, we had ECMAScript 3, which got published. After that, we are having ECMAScript 5. ECMAScript 4 is missing here. So basically, ECMAScript 4 was planned to release, but due to some technical difficulties, it was never got published. It was ready, but due to some reason, it was never published. So that's why the ECMAScript 4 is missing here. After 2009, another version of ECMAScript came in 2015, which was ECMAScript 6, which got published in 2015. Then after 2015, you can see there were continuous improvement in JavaScript development. We were having couple of new versions of it, like in 2016, if you'll notice, ECMAScript 7 was there. Then ECMAScript 8 we had in 2017, 18 we had 9, and 2019 we had ECMAScript 10. And it is still continuing with ECMAScript 14, which is the latest version of it. So basically, it is having a new version with every release of it. So that's how it is going. So whatever JavaScript we are having after ECMAScript 6, which includes basically the latest modules, classes, and some other functionalities, we are calling that JavaScript as a modern JavaScript. So if you'll see whatever you had from 1996 to 2009, that is basically old school JavaScript, the standard JavaScript what you are using. And from 2015 ES6 version to till date, whatever we are having as part of ECMAScript 6 to ECMAScript 14, that is basically modern JavaScript. Now, after this slide, I'll quickly show you a couple of examples which was introduced as part of modern JavaScript. You must be using it already. It is just maybe you don't know like if this was part of modern JavaScript or old JavaScript. And if you are not using it, then this is going to be a very interesting demo for you. We will start with template literals. This is one of the functionality introduced as part of modern JavaScript after ES6 release. So template literals or template, we can call it template strings as well. So basically template literals are delimited with the backtick character. If you haven't noticed it in your keyboard, it is a character which is backtick. It must be underneath the escape key in your keyboard. Okay. I'm not sure if you have used it earlier. So template literals allow you to perform some action. Mostly it is used to create a string by doing substitution of placeholder, which can be little complicated if you will use the normal way. And recently, if you have noticed, we have been working around GraphQL as well, right? GraphQL is the new way to retrieve data without doing Apex. So if you'll notice the GraphQL syntax itself, which is basically in JavaScript, the GraphQL syntax itself is working using backtick syntax, the backtick characters. So in GraphQL syntax also, if you have used it, if not, I would suggest you to please search it out. So the GraphQL syntax will also be using the backtick character to have your query, your parameter, and everything in the single string and pass it over to get the data. Now I will quickly show you a demo of these template literals, how template literals are working, and how you can leverage this functionality using backtick. So I'll quickly move out with this slide and open my first demo. So for today's demo, we'll be using playcode.io, which is basically an open source platform to use your JavaScript stuff. And you can also leverage other functionalities as well. But today we'll be using it for JavaScript only. So here, if you will notice, I'm having a constant here, right? Which is having first name as my name and last name as my surname, which is Kapil Batra. Okay. So when you will try to have this in the normal console log with the normal single quote sign, right? So basically to print a string, the way of doing it is to have single quotes first. So I'm having single quotes here, and then I'm printing my user keyword here. Now, if you'll notice, before this user, I need to have a single quote again, right? But you cannot have single quote inside single quotes. So that's why we are using escape sequence here. So escape sequence are basically whenever you need to have these kind of sequences, you need to use it with a backslash sign, right? So here I'm having my escape sequence here to just print the single quote here. After that, I'm having the user keyword. And again, the escape sequence, which is having single quotes here. And after that, it is just the usual text. After the text, if you will notice, I'm having a plus sign, and after that, I'm printing my value here. Now, this is a normal way of using it. You might be already using it if you're working in JavaScript, if you're in LWC, or maybe just starting your journey, you must have used it, right? Now, let's come to the modern way of doing it. So, as part of the modern way, what we are having backtick signs here. So, if you will notice, this is the backtick sign. Let me try to zoom in a little. Okay. So if you'll notice, this is the backtick sign I'm using here. So with the backtick sign, we are having the power to not use the escape sequence anymore. So if you'll notice in the modern way, I'm just using my backtick sign. And for the user, I have directly used the single quotes here. If you notice here, these are the single quote sign, and I'm having the same text again here. I'm not closing my single quotes anywhere. Now, there's a specific way to use your parameters under this backtick sign. So the way is to have the dollar sign with curly braces. And with this, you don't need this plus sign either. You can directly have your parameter name. So if you will notice the output is pretty same. It is just like how you can, leverage the best of the modern JavaScript and how you can utilize it. So if you will see, the output is same for both of the functionalities. This is using the modern JavaScript and this is using the standard way. I will move on with my next example, which is again related to backtick sign. So basically, whenever we need to have a new line in your string, or maybe when you're printing something, usually we are using the escape sequence, which is the slash n, to have it in the new line, right? Now, as part of modern JavaScript, if you want to use it, how you can do it, you can simply have the console log here. You can add your backtick sign. Okay, these are my backtick sign. Now, if I will have my line one. So in the modern Java, in the standard way of using it, if you have noticed, I'm having this slash n here to put it in the next line. But as part of modern JavaScript, as we are having these backtick signs, you don't have to use the escape sequences anymore. You can simply press the enter here to get into the new line. So if I'll print here line 2, you can see the line 2, and the same way line 3. So this was another example of using the backtick sign in the modern JavaScript. You don't have to use the escape sequences here. I have one more example related to it. I'll try to wrap it up a little quickly. So here, if you will notice, in standard JavaScript, I'm having a string which is saying 15 is a plus b, which is 5 and 10. And then in new line, I'm having not 2 multiplied by a plus b, which is 20 basically. So this is the output of it. But as part of modern JavaScript, as I showed you already, the backtick sign, you don't have to use the escape sequences. You don't have to use the normal way of printing the parameter as well. So here, if you will see, I'm having backtick sign 15 is, then I'm having my parameter. So it is going to be with dollar and curly braces, a plus b, which is 15, and not, then again, dollar and curly braces, the same syntax can be there with the backtick sign. If you need to have it in the new line, just hit the enter and it will be in the new line. So these were the couple of examples related to the backtick sign. I'll quickly move to my presentation again, and I will move to my next slide, which is destructing assignment syntax. So basically, destructuring assignment syntax is a JavaScript expression that makes it possible to unpack values from array or properties from object into distinct variables. If you have noticed, as a JavaScript developer, I personally know that JavaScript developers are always trying to get data in and out of an array object. Whenever you need to pass the data, you will be having an array to pass it out. You won't be passing values separately, right? Most probably you have used the standard way. Let's try to understand it using some examples, like what are the different modern ways of using it. I'll quickly move to my next example, which is related to uh, this destructing assignment syntax. So here, if you will notice, I'm having first name and last name, and I'm creating a kind of array here where I'm assigning first name to this first name in this array and last name to this last name here. And now when I'm printing user, it will be printing my first name and last name here. So this is basically like 5 line of codes what I have used here to print the user, right? Now let's move to the modern way of doing it. So in the modern way, let me quickly uncomment the modern way of doing it. In the modern way, if you will notice the same literal I'm using here, first name and last name. Let me comment this thing. I'm using same first name and last name here as well, but this time to have it as an array, I'm not assigning it to any parameter, because while I was assigning it, my parameter name and the assignment variable name was also same. So until it is same, you don't have to assign it separately to the parameters. You can simply have it like this. So here I'm just having user and I'm just having my values here. And now again, if I'm having the log, the same log, I will be getting the same result here. If you can see, the The parameter name is their first name, but we are not having the name here. And last name is also here because the parameter what we are assigning to this array and the parameter name what we were using in the array, until it is same, you can assign it directly to any array. You can club it directly. You don't have to put the value and sorry, the name and value separately. You can simply put the value and the name will be automatically the same what values you are having. The same way, another example is to get data out of this array. So as an example, I'm having numbers here, which is having basically four values here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the usual way of getting data out of this thing is to have it using index, right? So basically, if you will see, I'm having four literals here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And to get data out of this array, so for to get the first value, I'm basically calling the array and I'm having the zero index here. Basically, that is the way to get the first value. So it will return one here. This will be getting 2, 3, and 4, right? It will be in this sequence only. And in this console log, you can see here on the console, it is having 1. Now, as part of modern way, you don't have to assign it separately. So we are still having the same array. I'll quickly remove this thing. The separate assignment I'm removing from here. We are still having the same array, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, instead of assigning it based on the parameter like numbers and in brackets, we had 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We are directly assigning numbers to these four literals. So basically, what it is going to do, it is going to assign these four values in the same sequence. So the name doesn't matter. I mean, you can have anything here. Maybe you can have any name here. It is not about the name if it is matching or something. So basically, it is assigning these numbers to this 1, 2, 3, and 4, these four values, right? So again, if I will try to print this, it is going to give me the same result, which is 1 basically. If I will be having 2, it will give me 2 based on the sequence of it. Now, the thing is, you must be thinking, what if the source is having more values than the receiver, right? So here, if you will see, receiver is having 4 values and the source is having also 4 values. But if the source is having more values than receiver, or maybe if there is a situation where you need to retrieve only couple of values only, so you need to make sure the sequence of the values are same. For rest of the values, it will automatically show undefined. So for example, if I had 5 here, and here if I'm having 4 only, so for 5 it is going to show undefined. It won't be fetching those values because it doesn't exist here, right? So that's how, using modern JavaScript, you can do this assignment and get data out of the arrays. Another example of the same functionality is how you can swap the variables in it. So I'll keep it very, very basic. So basically, to swap two variables with each other, like in A we are having 1, in B we are having 3. So as a normal functionality, we need a variable C here, right? We need another variable to store to store the value, to store the copy of the value in it, so that you can swap between the variables and then you can assign the third value to the previous value as well, right? But as part of modern JavaScript, you don't have to do it in the same way. You can simply do it using the destructing syntax, which is basically have those values in the destructing syntax, like I need A and B, and I need to swap the values with B and A. So this is another example of destructuring assignment syntax, basically to reassign the values, to swap the variables. Now here, if you will notice in the console log, if I'm printing A, it is returning 3 here. In the log, you can see 3. And if I am printing B, it is returning 1 here. So that's how we have swapped the variables using the destructing assignment syntax. All right, I'll quickly move to my next slide, which is functions and better parameter handling.
Sorry for interrupting you, Kapil. Just a soft reminder, we just have 5 minutes.
I'll cover it in 4, don't worry.
Perfect.
So functions and better parameter handling. So prior to ESS, parameter handling and functions was tedious. To ensure that your code is running as expected, you often had to add manual checks with the function or maybe any optional parameter. But ES6 provides you a better way of handling these parameters. And also with ES6, you are having fat arrow syntax, right? I'll quickly move on the example and show it to you. So the first example you're seeing here is a fat arrow syntax, and I'll show you how you can use it. This is just a basic JavaScript function, which you might be able to understand, as we are just storing the result and we are having function A and B. And as a return, we are just returning sum of it. If I'm having it in console and I'm calling this function, which is result, I'm passing two values, 5 and 10 here. And it will give me result as 15, right? You can see the result in console. Now, as part of modern JavaScript, what you're having here, you don't have to use the function keyword and the old methods of doing it. Instead of that, you are having fat arrow syntax, which is, you can notice here, I'll quickly make it result one. Here, if you will notice, as part of the fat arrow syntax, what we are doing, we are just having the parameters here. Then instead of having this function keyword, we are just having this fat arrow syntax, which is basically equals to and the greater than sign. And then you can simply pass your result, what you need from it, right? And in console, I'm just trying to have the same thing. See, if you will see, both consoles are same and both results are also same. But here you had 3 line of code, and here you converted it to 1 line, right? As part of code review and other stuff as well, number of lines also matter. Your code should be optimized always. So this is one of the benefit of modern JavaScript, the fat arrow syntax. Another very cool functionality I would like to show is how you can handle your parameter better. So here, if you will notice, we are having a function hello world here where we are passing two parameters. Now, while passing parameters to function, you need to make sure while you are calling it, it is having the same parameter. If it is not, you need to assign a default value. That's what I'm doing here. So I'm checking if P2 is null, assign world here. If it is not null, then whatever value is there, assign it that. So here I'm calling that function hello world. I'm just passing one value as P2 is null. It is assigning world here. And that's why you are able to see hello world. But as part of modern JavaScript, you are having the ability to assign the default value in the function itself. So here, if you will notice on line number 9, I'm having the same function, but here I'm assigning the P2 value by default. And in return, I'm just simply having P1, then a space and P2. So it is basically whenever P2 is null, have this default value. And if P2 is having another value, then you don't have to use that default. You will be using the actual value. For example, here on line number 12, we are having a console where I'm just having hello. Now I will be adding one string here. I will add my name. So you can see the value has been replaced now. It is not having the default value now. So this was the last example of this presentation. I know we are running out of time, and I believe this was my last slide. Yes. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time.